In today's episode, I'm going to show you a process rather than a product. It is a process that will make your blacksmithing skills a lot higher, a lot quicker. What it's going to teach you is how to create a finished forging to a very high standard. A lot of people struggle with getting all the hammer marks out and the dings out. So if you're a hobby blacksmith or a knife making enthusiast, this forging exercise is perfect for you. So I'm going to take this 20mm Junker mold steel, square in section. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take half the bar, set it in halfway, so 10mm, and then make a rectangle section. But I don't want to go any wider than what this is. I want to keep it in the same section, just for practice. So I'm going to bring it out, put half on the anvil, and I'm going to make a set down. Like you would a set of tongs. And I'm going to bring it up horizontal with the anvil. Like I said, I'm going to keep the width the same as the parent bar. So now it's at a low orange. I'm going to put it back in the fire. So I'm just working my way along the bar just to get the mass of it drawn. I'm not worrying about hammer finishing or anything like that. Now it's a bright orange. I'm going to put it back in because I don't want to tire myself out. If you're doing this by hand, then you want to work this as hot as you possibly can at every heat and not let it cool down to black, because if you let it cool down to black, you're working really hard. So I'm pretty much working at a welding heat. That's a lot easier. Now we're coming down to bright orange. I'm thinking about putting it back in. I'm not doing planishing blows, I'm literally just forging it out. Keeping an eye on the thickness of the section, on the width, and the width this way, but I'm near enough halfway through my parent bar. So hopefully you can see that I'm standing 90 degrees to my anvil. I'm not going alongside it like a lot of people. I don't get on well with that way. I think it's because I got such a long handle on my hammer. And I'm bringing my hand all the way up, bringing down, and I'm flicking the wrist at the end to get that inertia at the end. And I'm not aiming for the top of the work, I'm not aiming for the top of the anvil, I'm actually aiming for the floor. But everything's in the way, so this ain't the end of my stroke. The floor is the end of my stroke, but it hits this and then comes back up. I'll show you again. So we're at a nice yellow heat. I'm going to work the sides first. Now I'm going on top. Now I'm going to work the transition because I'm nearly there. And that's a good transition. Now I'm thinking about dividing this bar up because I want to make it a rectangle, going into a square section, then going into a round section. So I'm going to tidy up around from where it goes to square to rectangle from the set down. Because once that's done, we can leave it alone. Now you see I'm in a lot lower heat now. I'll give you a close up on the next heat, and that'll be able to give me my planishing heat rather than a really hot heat. So what I'm going to do is just wire brush it. because I'm coming to a, not finishing size, but near enough there. I'm going to push that material out of the way because it's a bit thicker. I don't need to have it that thick. Planish the sides in a little bit. Now I'm not bringing the hammer up as high. If you listen to how quick the hammer, the dings of the hammer are between each stroke, that will determine on how high I'm bringing up the hammer for the amount of power that I need to do that process. So every time I'm hitting the sides, I'm getting this little concave section because I'm hitting the sides. These corners want to fold out onto each other and compress the center. So what I'm doing every time I'm working on the flat, I'm putting my hammer on each corner rather than in the middle. So again, I'll wire brush it. Now I'm looking at the thickness. I need it to be a bit thinner there so I can push the material in. Now I'm going to work the sides, only half of the bar this time, because the rest we're going to take square. I'm going to work that corner that I was just saying about the concave bit. I'm going to work the edge and then work the other edge. And you can see I'm not bringing up the hammer really far. Try and keep it straight, then planish this side. Starting to look really crisp. So now I work the edges again. And the next couple of heats I'm going to worry about my hammer finish, so all my dents and my valleys and everything. So I'm working this cold, just so I can crisp out the edges, so the next heat I come in, wire brush everything off, and literally just go over it and just tippy-tappy it. That's all I need to do. So I don't have a great deal of heat in it. But I'm going to clean it as best as I can. Now I'm a little bit wider on the sides. Come in, tippy tappy. So I want my transition to square around here. So that's why I'm not really worried about this section, but I am trying to keep it flat. So now I'm working the edge, really crisping that up. Work the other edge, really crisping that up. You can see the shiny bits are the planished bits. Not put a tape to this or a ruler to this, I'm just going by eye. See it start to bounce there where it's cold. I'll keep everything clean. Subconsciously pushing this corner into the anvil for something to grip while I do this. can run a flatter over this. Let's make it nice and flat. True. But for practice sakes, we're just going to do it by eye. Just hammer and anvil. This is a bit bent, this main section. I'm just going to flatten that out. We're looking pretty much the same width that way, half the bar that way. Now I'm going to think about where I want my square section to go. But what we're going to do to make this look like a certain section, we're going to now come in and make our square section there. So we're going to remove all this material here. Not remove it, but we're going to move it. So I'm going to take about roughly half. Set it down, and then bring it up horizontal, and then forge this bit out. Remember, we want this piece square, but we want it square to whatever this section is now. So say this is 10 mil, we want a 10 mil square section there. So I want to show you position of forging with this angle, where I am stood at the anvil. Pretty much see I'm 90 degrees to the anvil. And my hammer goes like this, and it goes like this, and it goes everywhere, but it doesn't matter because I'm not trying to like control it as much. You can really control it. Subconsciously, if the hammer wants to go that way or the hammer wants to go that way on the bounce, it does what it wants to do. So now we're about halfway. I don't really want to work the tip too much because that's got to be round. But I am going to take all this to square to the same size section. And this is where you can get tedious because you're constantly working with that swell that was on the picture. So you're constantly working with that. So basically got to get this section done, that section, that section, that section, until it's all uniform. If it starts twisting on you, you could just come in and work the corners and it'll reset. So I'm not going to start squaring it up until this section here, this section is the same width as this section. Once it's that width section, I'll turn it, I'll look how wide this is, and then I'll forge it like that and get that section. What that'll do is it will make this section wider, and then I'll come back and it make that section wider, etc, etc. You're just chasing it. But you got to remember, this is a forging exercise, this is not a forging project. This is literally some practice. You're practicing a process, that is all it is. It has no aesthetic value. So I'm working at a lower heat, just to control that bulging a little bit more. So I'm kind of planishing it, but kind of forging it at the same time, just hitting it a little bit harder. Imagine forging is like a tube of toothpaste. If you squeeze it in the middle, it'll go either way and out of the sides. If you squeeze it from the end and roll the tube of toothpaste up, all that material and all that toothpaste goes out the end of the tube. That's what we're trying to do when we're doing tapers or forging to section like this. So you can see how quickly it heats up when I put it back in the forge. At a hot temperature, I can literally explain a little thing, come back out, bosh. Bish, bash and a bosh. You see where I'm holding my hammer? I'm holding it closer to the head now because I want a little bit more control over the planishing. I'm trying with all my might to not put a platter on this. But I gotta keep reminding myself this is literally an exercise in forging. To section. That is all it is. Seeing how good I can get the surface finished. So I'm overlapping blows. Every blow is overlapping the next one. The one previous. Just squaring it up. I don't want to make a rhombus, I don't want to make any other shape than a square. I want to make a rectangle. I think we're about there. Just a little blend into the rectangle bit. Straighten it a bit. I think that'll be good for square. You see how crispy that is. Now I'm going to take half of this and I'm going to turn it round. That's what we have. We started with our 20mm square. Took that halfway for the section. Got the same width as this parent bar. We turn that into a rectangle section. Then we've done another little step down again to half the bar. Then we turn that into a square section. And now the rest of the bar we're going to turn to a round section. You see the orientation of it. So this will teach you a lot about tongs, because basically you've got a set of tongs there and you can forge this out to the nibs of whatever you want to hold. It's a really good forging exercise. So what I'm going to do, halfway down the square, while it's still cold, just determine where my round section is going to be, just by knocking the corners off. So this is like a low orange. I'm not going to work this as hot as the rest of the bar. Find my transition for the round. Come in, and then I'm going to spin it 180 degrees. Come to the next section. And then 90 degrees. So you're always working opposites. And then 180 degrees. We're going to take 8 corners. So we're going to make an octagon like we do any round. Sides equal as you can. Starts twisting on you, just put your square on the face squarely. Keep it flat, just work your edge.
work the face that follows the square flat face, and then you'll end up back to a reset position. Nice orange. We come back onto the corners now. Because we want this to be the same size section, but being round, and be careful to not work the end of the bar too much. They're roughly now the same size, each facet. So what I'm going to do is go along and knock in every single one of them corners on the next heat, and then that will give me 16 sides, and then I'll knock in those corners that it produces, that'll give me, was it 32, and then it's pretty much round from there, and then we just roll it, tippy tappy it. So this is where you want to keep everything clean. 1, so you can see it better. 2, so you're not knocking all the rubbish into your workpiece. So I'm trying to use the same amount of force on all the corners. Now I'm literally just chasing every high spot. Checking as I go, having a look, not wading away on it. So I'm going to roll it along, spin it. So if you keep an eye on this part here, so I'm rolling it, rolling it, rolling it, and then I'll roll it back as I'm tapping it. So I put you in that camera angle in that position so you can see how I roll my left hand, my tongue hand, and my hammer. I'm not even holding, not really holding the hammer, literally just pushing my hand up and down on the banks of the hammer, the weight of the hammer. That movement then creates the little tippy tappies. You see him. What I'm going to do is actually work my square faces half on, half off blow. It creates like a point going into the round section, which makes a really nice transition. So I'm working it pretty cold, but it's cold. This is just a planishing heat. Literally just going on all the high spots, working my way around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the very tip, just tap this in so it's a nice flat profile, like so. It will bend, do. Just straighten it, don't try and forge it, just straighten it. You could always just cut it off, file it off, grind it off, whatever you want. Or you can just leave it. Try not to angle your hammer down or back or anything, literally flat as you can. We'll round this up, one more heat, do the squares again, and then we'll go over the whole bit, clean it, wire brush it, planish everything. Now I've painted the whole lot in the fire. Come out, give it a wire brush, keep wire brushing it till the scale no longer forms. This is about red. It's probably going to bend and do all sorts of stuff, but I'll work that out after. Now I'm at the stage where the scale is not forming. We go in and straighten everything. One last planish. Try not to hit the round bit. If you have to, you have to. Do it with a hardy hole or brittle hole. You're not forging it between the anvil and the hammer.
So if you made it this far in this video, thank you very much for sticking around, and I hope I've taught you a little bit and I hope you appreciate what I'm doing. I'd like to give a big shout out to David, who is our new member. He's ticked on that little box that's below and joined the membership, which I've now got access to, and also Super Chat. And that is for people that have asked me how you can help me out monetarily. That is probably the best way of doing it. If you want to, I'm not asking you to do it, and I'm not asking you to subscribe either. I'd prefer it if you didn't subscribe. There are 2 tiers for this membership. One is $1 and one is a little bit more than $1. And that's just a little extra. And if you go down below, I think it gives you the option to become a member. And that just really helps the channel. But I know we're in a cost of living crisis at the minute, and I do not expect anybody to give me anything monetarily. I really don't. But what you can do for free, if you've enjoyed this video and if you've learned anything from any of the previous videos and any of the future videos that I'm going to be putting out, then just hit the like button and leave a comment of what you've learned, or ask a question if you don't understand a certain thing in this video or any of the previous videos. Go back to those videos and leave a comment and just ask. And I'll do my best to answer that question. If you have got to the end of this video, I appreciate it, and thank you for your time, and I hope you've learned a lot, learned a little, or even just enjoyed the video. So thank you very much, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.